This is Growth in Dentistry, a dental intelligence podcast where we ask the question, what does growth in dentistry look like to you? I'm Katie Polson, a dental hygienist and your host. Welcome to another episode of Growth in Dentistry. I'm Katie Polson. This episode is brought to you by DI Payments, a complete AR tool that finds outstanding AR, messages the patient for you, follows up if they don't pay, and even gets you paid on an average of 12 days faster. Find out more at payments.dentalintel.com. Before we get started, I wanted to invite you to join our Facebook Dental Intelligence community. And also, if you'd be so generous to go rate and review this podcast, we'd appreciate it so much. Now on to our show today. We've talked for the last 6 episodes on burnout. I don't know if you're burnt out listening to it, but I'm a little bit burnt out talking about it. And to finish our discussion, I have with me Chris Toyn. Chris Toyn is our Executive Vice President of Finance. Welcome, Chris.
Awesome, thank you.
So glad to have you. Chris is like the Swiss Army knife of dental intel. He really can do it all. He has done it all.
Yeah, pretty much.
So we're lucky to have him here. We are going to discuss today burnout and how data can help. And that might be a big jump for some of you to make in your minds. But we really believe here at Dental Intel that tech and data analytics can make your lives easier to free up time and better your lives and better your patients' lives as well, which is what we believe in here at Dental Intel is we help you do more and better dentistry. So to talk about that, we've got, I'm just excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, thank you.
You've been with Dental Intel since its infancy, and I'm sure it's been a labor of love. And we were talking in the pre-show today about how many hours he put in yesterday, which was 14. It's a lot. He's doing a lot, but I know that you love this product and this company a lot. What have you learned about overcoming burnout yourself in your role here at Dental Intel? And what advice can you give to those?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Burnout is an interesting topic because, there's that fine line of work-life balance and also that feeling of accomplishment and achievement as far as progression. And for me, being here at Dental Intel since, day one, it's been really fun, and not only to see it grow from that baby stage where, no customers, no clients, and see the product evolve from then we were doing CFO consulting to now, which is data analytics. And for me, it's more of the journey and seeing the achievement within the company that has kept me going. So, because it's a lot of hard work, for business owners and practice owners that start from scratch. It's you got to attract a customer base. You got to attract a loyal customer base, and not only that, but then you're managing the business side. How do we keep our patients happy, or for us, how do we keep our customers happy, or what's their journey look like? A lot of everything.
And then also do the dentistry.
Oh yes. And that's insane. And I remember in the earlier stages when we were consulting with the dentist on the CFO side, I was amazed. They're the technicians plus, they're the business owners, and I couldn't even fathom how they were being able to not only find time to do that, but keep their teams motivated, keep their team members incentivized to give it their all. And that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned is how do you keep that going? How do you keep that momentum going with your team members? Because if they're happy and they're not burnt out, you're going to get really great rewards from their efforts, and your patients will see that. It's the same here. Our customers feel it. If we're burning out team members, then our customers definitely can sense that. So
for sure. That's great insight. Thank you so much for that. Walk me through how data analytics can give back a provider time. Because I think that's one of the things that I, as a provider using Dental Intel, or just using data in general, really. Walk me through some of the things that help people give them more time.
Yeah. It makes me think about, a couple of interactions I've had with, within Dental Intel. I'll give a couple of examples there. I remember one of my most memorable moments was working with the Dr. Maxwell. He's back in Philadelphia. He had 2 practices. I remember him calling us up, and I picked up the phone, and I was, consulting that time, not really on the sales side. And I picked up the sales line because everyone was busy. We only had 4 people on our team then. And so, but I talked to him and he was just looking for a solution because he's like, man, because I asked him, like, why did you call us? And he's like, well, to be honest, Chris, he's like, I'm working on, it's my 3rd marriage. He's like, I have a feeling it's not going great and I just need to save time. And I was like, okay, like talk to me about that. He said, he's trying to run these 2 practices. He's trying to buy a 3rd. He's like, I'm pulling these numbers manually. And it takes me an additional 30 hours a week just to get the data I need to know what's going on. Like, how do I know how this practice is performing? I'm not there on site. Even when he's practicing, he doesn't know what's going on in the business because he's being a dentist. So, and that's when it really hit me earlier on, like, wow, like data can really help give the visibility to these owners as to what is occurring in the practice, what's the health of the practice. It's interesting to think about time and the value of time in that situation. If you're a provider from doctor or associate or hygienist, how can analytics help me save time? There's a lot of science behind the numbers that will allow these providers not only to save time during their days because they're going to be busy with patients, and to get a good idea of how they're performing. Okay, well, I need to step back. I need to look at my full day, after I've had the conversations and, did my patients accept the treatment? How do they know, and how would I know, if I'm doing the best I can and if I'm helping them without analytics, think about the other side. I'm gonna have to call a patient. Hey, did you accept this treatment that you need? Right. Or, and so the data analytics is just measuring what's happening throughout the day and putting in a snapshot so you can see and keep a pulse on your practice.
Yeah.
So,
and the flip side to that is if they continue to diagnose treatment and they don't ever follow up with their patients, they think that they don't have any work that needs to be done in their practice. And then they're reaching out for new patients. It continually again and again and again. And it's this cycle where many practices to do the easy thing, which is to keep track with the patients that you already have in your practice. And
right. Yeah. That's
help you do that.
Yeah. And that's it is interesting because with these, with a lot of the practice owners that I talked to and interacted with and was able to work with and alongside, the first thing they would tell me, because I was always curious. Like I come from an investment banking background, so I didn't know dental that well. And so I would always ask questions like, okay, well, what do you think your pain points are? What are you needing? Or, because they would know production numbers, collection numbers, but they kind of step back like, why? I need new patients. I'm like, okay, well, why do you think you need new patients? He's like, well, I'm not that busy. I feel like if I got more new patients, then, I get busier and I'd be able to produce more, and without the analytics, it's hard to pinpoint, and that maybe that's the case. Right.
Yeah.
But to your point, if we have this bucket and we're trying to fill it to a certain level and we have these giant holes at the bottom, we're just pouring water to the top, the question then is, okay, well, how do we make sure that our effort, we're not just pouring more water in and losing that water, and the only way to see that is to take a microscopic view of this bucket. Where are the holes? Where are the pain points? And how do we, stop that flow? So,
right. Yeah, exactly. And the practice management softwares are just not equipped to help you achieve that.
No,
for sure.
Yeah. And kind of on that note, it's a short tangent. I mean, that's, when we started consulting, that's kind of what led to our analytics, right? Is we would pull these reports and I didn't know what was accurate. I'd be looking at, Dentrix reports for accounts receivable, and there's 4 different ways we could pull that they never matched. And so I'd go to the doctors and the office managers and the treatment coordinators, like, okay, well, how much do your patients owe you? Like, which number is it? And it was just it was hard for me to, and that's the thing is it's almost better not to have data if it's inaccurate.
Yeah. It's bad
and
data.
So,
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So the next question I have for you is, how does data analytics help providers make better decisions about their practice? And we grazed that topic a little bit, but take us down that road a little bit.
Yeah. So data is very insightful because it'll allow you to see where those opportunities are, right? If you look at kind of your objectives or your goals. You may have an objective to, provide the best care for your patients. If that was a goal, you just start with that metric, and the question would be to me, okay, well, how do we know if we're taking care of them? Like, what's a good indicator? Maybe a good indicator is new patients coming in, because our existing patients are referring their friends and family. So we have a lot of new patients. And then, another metric that we could then look at is, okay, well, are we retaining them? Like, what's our hygiene reappointment? What's our treatment acceptance like? Are we, we'd try to corner these metrics to see, okay, well, these things highlight the behavior of our patients and inevitably get us to our goal. And so if you take all of that away, then we're just going off of feelings. And that's a really difficult and hard position to be in, especially if you have team members where you're trying to get them to move in the same direction. Because if, we all have our different ideas of, okay, well, I know I'm taking care of my patients because they told me, I'm the hygienist, I'm in the chair. They said I'm great,
Yeah.
And so then we have these conflicting opinions, these conflicting ideas when we start to bring in more team members, and it's harder to move in that same direction and use all of that energy to move in that direction. And so with the data analytics and just numbers in general and data, you're able to have that talking point of, okay, well, here's where we're at. This is where we need to get to. And then, are we all seeing the same thing? Is it the same picture? And if it is, then, what can we do to, now that we all agree on this, what can we do to, get better or perform higher?
Yeah. So that's a great insight. And we've talked a lot about burnout so far, and it really dovetails nicely with that thought of being able to rely on the numbers and releasing your brain power. Like, you don't have to think about that anymore. You just let the numbers do it for you. And then you just continue to check in with those, and then they keep you accountable, and they don't have to keep your team accountable. The numbers just keep you accountable.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then it just frees your brain power for something else. Because a lot of people, especially during the pandemic now, I mean, in 2019, burnout became a syndrome recognized by WHO because of the way things have been going.
Right.
And it really is just, it's fatigue of being pulled in different directions, and numbers definitely help with that. Well, the last question that we ask every person that comes on this podcast, this is the first time you've been on it, not going to be the last. What does growth in dentistry mean to you? You've been in dental now for five years now.
Well, close to 8.
I guess that's true, because before.
Yeah. Growth in dentistry. I mean, it's been a phenomenal experience for myself. It makes me reconsider my occupation, where I'm like, man, dentists have such an awesome opportunity, not only to impact, such a wide variety of people, but, team members, build something that's meaningful. And, in dentistry, how I see it is, if we can grow dentistry and if we can improve on, the services that we are offering, then we're not only making a lifestyle for ourselves, but we're providing, all of these opportunities for our patients to just elevate their life. And, so and that's really what motivates me in my role here. I'm now mainly focused on, the corporate side with Dental Intel, not involved in the product. Unfortunately, not talking to a lot of dentists anymore. Yeah. I mean, I miss that, just because it's so fun just to see, it seemed to me that every dentist I talked to wanted to improve, and they want to not only improve as a dentist, but they want the best for their team. They're not saying, okay, I'm going to go be a dentist today. What can I do to be a poor dentist? They're wanting and have that desire to do really, really well, which impacts the overall quality of life of not only their team, but their patients. And another side note, like what I learned is health, just physical health of any individual starts in the mouth, and that, I mean,
yeah.
So, and that was new to me, I before dentistry, I was like, I have to go to the dentist this week. I'm going to cancel that,
Yeah.
I'm too busy.
No, keep your dental appointment, Chris. It's important. Well, thanks for coming. This has been Growth in Dentistry, a dental intelligence podcast. Again, thanks to our guest, Chris Toyn, today. If you have any questions for us regarding this podcast or any other podcasts that we've done, please go to our podcast page at dentalintel.com and submit one. They will be answered at a later date right here on this podcast. I'm Katie Polson. Keep growing.